The sky above the planet Virel burned with the light of war, red clouds mixed with smoke from explosions that never seemed to stop. Human landing ships moved through the thick air, dropping soldiers into a battlefield that stretched for many miles. The ground shook with every strike from the enemy cannons. Among the soldiers was a young man named Rian. He wore a damaged armor suit, and his helmet visor showed the heat of the planet and the movements of enemy troops ahead. Rian had fought for many months on Virel. He was not a commander or hero in the beginning. He was just a soldier who wanted to protect his people, but battle after battle had changed him. He learned how to stay calm under fire and how to fight when everything looked hopeless. His unit had been sent to clear the ruins of an ancient alien city, where the enemy had built a hidden base. The Vorn Dominion was the enemy. They were a powerful alien empire that had conquered many worlds. The Vorn soldiers were taller than humans, with pale silver skin and bright eyes that glowed in the dark. They were strong and disciplined, but Ryan and his team had something the Vorn could never understand. They had the human will to survive and fight even when all hope was gone. The ruins of the old city looked like broken bones rising from the red dust. Massive stone towers leaned against each other. Carvings of unknown creatures were cut into the walls. Ryan's commander, Captain Arlen, gave the signal to advance. The humans moved through the ruins, watching every corner for ambushes. They knew the Vorn were waiting somewhere. A loud explosion suddenly shook the street. Enemy plasma fire rained from the rooftops. Ryan dropped behind a wall and fired his rifle. Blue bolts flashed through the air. The team spread out, returning fire from every angle. Ryan saw one of his friends fall and ran to pull him to safety. He threw a smoke grenade to cover their retreat and shouted for backup. His voice was rough, but it carried through the noise. The humans fought hard, but the Vorn had better weapons. Captain Arlen ordered a withdrawal toward the central square. The only way to survive was to hold that position until reinforcements arrived. Ryan stayed at the back, covering his team as they moved. He fired again and again, keeping the enemy away. When he reached the square, he saw a large stone gate half buried in dust. It looked like the entrance to a forgotten palace. Arlen pointed to the gate. "We will hold here," he said. "Ryan, seal the flank." Ryan nodded and took position beside the gate. He placed explosive charges to block the side passages. The sound of battle echoed through the ruins. The Vorn were pushing forward, shouting in their own language. Ryan threw his last grenade and took cover. The explosion tore through the advancing troops. For a short moment there was silence. Then the ground began to tremble. A strange energy wave moved through the air, glowing with a green light. Ryan looked up in shock as a massive explosion struck nearby. The palace gate cracked open and the ground collapsed beneath him. He fell into darkness with dust and broken stones raining around him. When he finally hit the ground, everything was quiet except for the soft hum of energy in the air. Rian groaned and tried to move. His armor was damaged, but he was alive. He turned on his helmet light and saw a long hall filled with strange crystal pillars. The air was cool and smelled like metal. He realized he had fallen into an underground chamber untouched for centuries. He took a step forward, his boots echoing against the floor. At the far end of the hall stood a figure. It was a woman, dressed in silver armor shaped like the flowing lines of a crown. Her skin was pale blue, her hair long and white as frost. She looked at him with sharp eyes that seemed to glow softly. Ryan froze. He had seen many aliens, but none like her. Before he could speak, she raised her hand. "Who are you, human?" she asked in a calm but commanding voice. Rian lowered his rifle slightly but kept it ready. "Name's Ryan. I'm a soldier." "Who are you?" She stepped closer, her movements graceful like she was floating. "I am Princess Alera of the Vorn Dominion, daughter of the High Emperor," she said. Her words were filled with pride, but there was also weariness in her tone. "And you have entered the sacred palace of my ancestors." Ryan stared in disbelief. He had fallen right into the hands of the royal family of his enemy. "If you are a princess," he said carefully, "then your people are fighting outside. I need to get out before they find me." Alera looked at him strangely. "You will not leave so easily. The palace is sealed by ancient power. Only I can open it." Before they could speak further, the sound of another explosion came from above. The ceiling cracked and rubble fell between them. Ryan saw a glowing energy core about to collapse. Without thinking, he ran forward and pushed Alera out of the way. The energy core exploded, throwing them both across the floor. The chamber lights flickered and went dark. When Ryan opened his eyes again, he felt pain in his chest but ignored it. Alara was lying near him, stunned but alive. He crawled toward her and checked if she was breathing. She opened her eyes slowly, confused. "You saved me," she whispered. "I couldn't just watch you die," Ryan said. "Even if you are the enemy." She sat up and looked at him with new respect. "You are strange, human. Most of your kind would have let me die." Ryan smiled weakly. "Maybe, but that's not how we do things." Before they could say more, voices echoed through the chamber. Vorn soldiers had found the entrance and were coming down. Alara stood and raised her hand to stop them. When they saw her, they dropped to one knee. Their leader called out, "Princess Alara, we thought you were lost." Alara pointed toward Rian. "This human saved my life," she said loudly. "He is under my protection." The soldiers looked at each other in confusion. Their leader stepped forward. "But he is one of them, Princess. He must be taken prisoner." Alara's eyes turned cold. "By ancient law, the one who saves royal blood is bound to the royal house. He belongs to me." Ryan blinked in shock. "Wait, what?" "I don't belong to anyone." The soldiers hesitated. None dared to question their princess directly. The leader bowed and said, "As you command, Princess Alara." Alara turned to Ryan. "You are safe now. No one will harm you while I live." Ryan did not feel safe at all. He looked at the armed Vorn soldiers surrounding him and then back at the princess who had just claimed him. "I think you just made things worse for both of us," he said quietly. Alara smiled faintly. "Perhaps. But sometimes the path to peace begins with a single act of courage." The soldiers led them out of the underground chamber through a side tunnel. As they walked, Ryan looked around at the strange carvings and shining walls. He could feel that the place was ancient, filled with history and power. He wondered what would happen now. Would his own people think he was captured? Would they come to rescue him? And why did this alien princess protect him instead of letting her soldiers take revenge? When they reached the surface, the battle outside was still raging. Smoke covered the sky. Human ships fought against Vorn fighters above the ruins. Alara raised her hand and shouted orders in her language. Her soldiers formed a shield around her and Ryan. They moved toward a transport craft hidden behind a broken tower. Blaster fire hit the ground near them, but the shields held. As the transport lifted off, Ryan looked through the window. He saw human troops still fighting bravely, refusing to retreat. He felt torn between two worlds. He had saved the life of an enemy princess, and now she claimed he belonged to her. Nothing about this war made sense anymore. The ship flew away from the battlefield, heading toward the mountains where the Vorn royal fortress stood. Rian sat in silence while Alara watched the burning sky. She turned to him and said softly, "Your people fight with great spirit. Now I understand why my father fears them." Ryan did not answer. He was thinking about what would come next. Deep inside, he knew this moment would change everything. The war, his life, even the fate of both races might never be the same again. The transport disappeared into the clouds, leaving behind the ruins of Virel. The story of the young human warrior and the alien princess was only beginning. The transport ship flew through the clouds of Virel, away from the noise of battle. Inside the small cabin, the air was tense. Ryan sat across from Princess Alara, surrounded by Vorn guards who watched his every move. Their armor glowed with soft blue lights and their long rifles rested on their knees. Ryan kept his hands on his lap, calm but alert. He was tired, bruised, and confused about what had just happened. He looked at the princess. She sat tall and proud, her silver armor shining under the light. Her eyes stayed fixed on the screen, showing the burning battlefield behind them. Ryan could tell she was thinking deeply. He wanted to ask her what she meant when she said he belonged to her, but he stayed silent. For now, he needed to understand where this strange situation was leading. The ship landed on a flat platform built into the side of a mountain. The air outside was cold and thin snow covered the dark stone ground. Huge towers rose around them, each marked with glowing Vorn symbols. The fortress looked ancient but alive, as if power still flowed through its walls. When Rian stepped out, he saw hundreds of Vorn soldiers standing in formation. They bowed as Alara passed by, their heads lowered in respect. She led Rian through the gates while her guards followed close behind. Inside the fortress, long corridors were filled with crystal lamps that shone like frozen stars. Ryan's boots echoed against the floor as they walked. He noticed how the Vorn soldiers avoided looking directly at him. Some whispered to each other, shocked to see a human walking beside their princess. Alara seemed not to care. Her steps were steady and her face showed no fear. Finally, they reached a wide hall with a throne made of black crystal. Alara sat on it and her advisors gathered around. Ryan stood in the center, unsure what to do. The tallest advisor, an older Vorn named Serac, stepped forward. His voice was deep and sharp. "Princess Alara, is it true that you brought a human here?" Serac asked. "The war is still raging outside and you bring the enemy into our home?" Alara raised her hand to silence him. "He is not an enemy," she said clearly. "He saved my life when the palace fell. By our oldest law, the one who saves royal blood is bound to the royal house. I have claimed him under that law." The hall fell silent. Every Vorn in the room looked stunned. Serac frowned. "Princess, that law is ancient and symbolic. It was never meant to bind a human. The High Council will not accept this." Alara's eyes turned hard. "Then they will answer to me. The law is sacred and it does not choose between species. He saved me, and I will honor it." Serac bowed slightly but spoke again. "You risk everything for this human. The High Emperor may see this as betrayal." Alara stood from her throne. "Then so be it. I will not dishonor the code of my ancestors." Ryan felt strange hearing this. He never wanted any of this attention. He stepped forward and said carefully, "Princess, you don't need to protect me. I only did what anyone would have done. You can let me go and I'll find my own way back." Alara turned toward him. "You saved me when you could have left me to die. Now I owe you a life bond. Until it is repaid, you are under my protection." "I don't want to cause you trouble," Ryan said. "Your people already look at me like I'm a threat." Alara smiled faintly. "They will learn. The Vorn Empire has forgotten what honor means. Perhaps you will remind them." Serac stepped closer to Ryan, his eyes cold. "Human, understand this. You stand among enemies. If not for the princess, you would already be dead. Do not test our patience," Ryan met his gaze. "I'm not here to fight, but if someone comes for me, I'll defend myself." The tension in the hall grew. Alara raised her hand again. "Enough. Serac, see that the human is given quarters. No harm will come to him." The guards led Ryan through the corridors to a guest room. It was simple but far better than a cell. The walls glowed softly, and there was a bed made of strange black fabric that adjusted to his shape when he sat. He looked around and sighed. It felt like a golden cage. He sat on the bed, removed his damaged armor, and looked at the cuts on his arms. They were shallow but painful. He thought about his squad, his captain, and the war outside. They probably believed he was dead or captured. The thought weighed heavily on him. He wanted to escape, but he also remembered that Alara had saved him from being executed. She had risked everything for him. Later that night, Alara came to visit him. She wore a dark cloak instead of armor. Her long hair flowed down her shoulders. She looked tired but calm. She sat across from him and placed a small crystal orb on the table. It projected a map of Virel, showing red and blue lines moving across the planet. "The war continues," she said quietly. "Your people push forward. The Vorn armies are falling back." Ryan studied the map. "Then it's almost over." Alara shook her head. "No, it is far from over. My father will never accept defeat. He will burn this world before he lets it go." Ryan looked at her. "And what about you? Do you want the war to continue?" Her eyes softened. "No, I am tired of it. I have seen too many worlds destroyed. My people believe strength is everything, but they have forgotten mercy. That is why I stayed behind in the ruins. I wanted to find a way to end the war through peace." Ryan was surprised. "You wanted peace in the middle of a war zone?" She nodded. "Yes, but no one listened. They called me weak. Now after you saved me, I have a reason to act. If I can protect you and show my people that humans have honor, maybe something can change." Ryan thought for a moment. "You're risking your life for that." "Sometimes change needs risk," she replied. "And I am willing to take it." They sat in silence for a while. The sound of wind outside filled the room. Alara finally stood. "You should rest. Tomorrow I will speak with my father through the council channel. I will tell him that you are under my protection." Ryan nodded slowly. "If he's like you said, I don't think he'll be happy." She smiled sadly. "He won't, but I am ready for that." When she left, Ryan lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. He tried to sleep but could not. His mind was full of questions. Why did this alien princess care so much about him? Could she really stop the war? And if she failed, what would happen to him? The next morning, Ryan was taken to a high chamber where Alara stood before a large holographic screen. On it appeared the image of the High Emperor, a tall and fierce Vorn with silver armor and piercing eyes. His voice filled the room like thunder. "Alara, my daughter, you are alive. The council reported you missing. I live, Father," Alara said. "But I bring news you will not like." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "I already know. You have brought a human into our home. Explain yourself." "He saved my life," Alara said. "By ancient law, I am bound to protect him." "I will not break that law." The Emperor's expression turned cold. "That law was not meant for enemies. You shame our name by protecting the invader." "I follow the truth of honor," Alara said firmly. "You have taught me to respect our traditions." "I am doing so now." The Emperor's voice grew harder. "If you continue this foolishness, I will strip your title and send you to exile." Alara did not look away. "Then I will go in honor rather than live in shame." The Emperor's image flickered and vanished. The chamber fell silent. Ryan could see that Alara's hands trembled slightly, but her face remained calm. Serac entered the room quickly. "Princess, the Emperor has sent orders to detain you and the human. The guard commanders are choosing sides." Alara turned to Ryan. "Then our path is set. We can no longer stay here." Ryan took a deep breath. "You're really doing this for peace?" "Yes," she said. "And I will not stop." They moved quickly through hidden tunnels below the fortress. Ryan followed as Alara led the way. She knew the secret routes that her ancestors used during ancient wars. The tunnels glowed faintly with blue lights. Ryan could hear the distant noise of soldiers moving above. He knew that if they were caught, there would be no mercy. When they finally reached a hidden hangar, a small transport ship waited there. Alara looked back at him. "If we reach the neutral zone, we might have a chance to speak with both sides." Ryan nodded. "Then let's make it happen." They entered the ship and Alara activated the controls. The engines roared to life and the craft rose into the air. Outside, alarms began to sound across the fortress. Red lights flashed. The chase had begun. As the ship broke through the clouds, Ryan looked at the planet below. He realized that his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a soldier. He was now part of something far bigger, something that might decide the fate of two worlds. The small transport ship moved through the dark clouds above Virel, leaving behind the mountain fortress. Inside, Rian sat beside Alara as she steered the ship toward the edge of the war zone. The engines hummed softly, and the screens showed flashes of light from battles far below. Every few minutes, Alara checked the radar to make sure no Vorn patrols were following them. She looked calm, but Rian could see the worry in her eyes. "We cannot stay in Vorn space," she said. "My father will send fleets to hunt us. We must reach the neutral zone before they find us." Ryan nodded. "And after that?" "Then we find your people," Alara said. "They must hear the truth about what happened. If both sides can speak before more blood is spilled, there might still be hope." Ryan looked out of the window at the burning planet below. Hope is not something soldiers think about much. But maybe you are right. Maybe it's worth trying. For the next few hours they flew through the storm. The ship shook from turbulence and lightning flashed around them. Ryan helped keep the system steady while Alara focused on flying. It was strange to work side by side with someone who had been his enemy only a day ago, yet there was a quiet trust growing between them. When the ship finally cleared the storm, the stars came into view. Ryan looked at the endless black sky filled with distant lights. It felt peaceful for a moment, but that peace did not last. The radar alarm suddenly beeped. 3 Vorn fighters appeared behind them, closing fast. "They found us," Alara said, her hands moving over the controls. "Hold tight." The transport turned sharply as blue energy bolts passed by. Ryan grabbed the side rail. "Do we have weapons?" "Only light defense guns," she said. "They are warships. We cannot fight them for long." Ryan quickly strapped himself into the co-pilot seat and started pressing buttons on the weapon panel. "Then let's at least make them work for it." The ship fired back, small bursts of light flashing against the darkness. The fighters dodged easily and fired again. The hull shook as one of the engines was hit. Warning lights blinked across the screen. Alara struggled to keep the ship under control. "We are losing altitude. The nearest cover is the storm ridge to the east." "Take us there," Ryan said. "We can hide." Alara guided the damaged ship toward a cluster of floating mountains covered in mist. The fighters followed, but the thick clouds made it hard for them to see. Ryan manned the gun turret and fired at the nearest pursuer. One lucky shot hit the fighter's wing, sending it spinning down into the clouds. The other 2 broke formation and pulled back for a moment. They will call for reinforcements, Alara said. We must land and repair before they return. The ship descended onto a rocky plateau. Steam rose from the cracked engine. They stepped out into the cold air. The ground was covered with glowing moss that gave off a soft green light. The air smelled of metal and dust. Ryan grabbed his rifle and scanned the area while Alara checked the ship. How bad is it? He asked. The main thruster is damaged, she said. I can fix it, but I need time, Ryan nodded. Then I'll keep watch. They'll come back soon. He climbed up a small ridge to get a better view. The night sky stretched endlessly above, filled with lightning and faint stars. From there, he could see the distant lights of battle still raging on the surface. He felt small, standing between two great powers that refused to stop fighting. Yet inside, he felt a new strength. He had seen the truth behind the war. The Vorn were not just monsters, and humans were not just victims. Both sides were trapped by pride and fear. Alara worked fast, her hands glowing faintly as she used a tool that hummed with energy. She was skilled and focused, her movements precise. When Rian came down to help, she smiled slightly. You are good with weapons. Are you also good with machines? I can try, he said. Together they worked in silence, fixing cables and sealing the damaged hull. It took several hours, but at last the engine lights turned green again. Alara wiped her hands and sighed in relief. It will hold for now. Before they could rest, the sound of engines echoed through the clouds. More fighters were approaching. Ryan looked up and cursed under his breath. We can't stay here. Alara climbed into the cockpit. Then we fly again. They lifted off just as the enemy ships broke through the mist. Blaster fire chased them across the sky. Ryan fired back with the turret, keeping them at a distance. Alara pushed the engines to their limit. The stars ahead grew brighter as they reached the edge of the planet's atmosphere. The blue glow of space filled the windows. We are almost free, she said. A sudden explosion rocked the ship. The rear shield failed and alarm screamed. Ryan turned and saw a small shuttle flying toward them from the side. It was not Vorn, the design was human. A message came through the comms. Unidentified vessel, this is Commander Hale of the Terran fleet. Power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Ryan froze. That's human command. They must think I've been captured. Alara frowned. If they see me, they will open fire. They won't listen if I try to explain, Ryan said. They'll see an alien ship and shoot first. The human shuttle fired a warning shot. Alara hesitated. If we fight them, your people will think you are the enemy too. Rian took a deep breath. Then we surrender. But let me talk first. She looked at him with trust in her eyes. Very well. I will follow your lead. The transport slowed and the human shuttle latched onto its side. Armed soldiers entered through the airlock, pointing rifles at them. Ryan raised his hands. Stand down. I'm one of you. The commander stepped forward, eyes narrowing. Ryan, you're alive. We thought you were killed in the ruins. I was captured, but this is not what it looks like, Ryan said. This is Princess Alara. She saved my life. She wants peace. The soldiers looked confused. Commander Hale's expression darkened. She is the enemy, Ryan. You can't trust her. She protected me, Ryan said firmly. If it wasn't for her, I'd be dead. She risked her life to escape her own people. Alara stood beside him silently, her hands lowered to show peace. I mean no harm, she said softly. I came to speak for peace. The humans murmured among themselves. Hale stepped closer. You expect me to believe that? The Vorn have burned a dozen colonies. I know what they've done, Ryan said. But this one is different. If we listen, maybe we can stop it. Before Hale could respond, a bright flash filled the window. Vorn battleships had arrived, dropping out of warp space. The neutral zone was close, but not close enough. Alara's face turned pale. They followed us. My father's fleet. The human commander cursed and ordered his men to return to the shuttle. We have to move. They'll destroy us all. Ryan grabbed his arm. Wait, if you fire on them now, the war will never end. Let her talk. Hale looked at him, torn between duty and reason. You're asking for a lot, soldier. Then trust me, Ryan said. You always told us humanity survives because we adapt. Let's prove it, Alara stepped forward.
I will send a message to my father.
I will tell him to stand down. She used the ship's comms to send a transmission. Her voice echoed through the speakers. Father, this is Alara. I'm alive. The human fleet is here, but they seek peace. Call off your attack. There was no answer at first. Then a cold voice filled the air. You have betrayed your people. Surrender or be destroyed. Alara looked at Ryan. He will not listen. Ryan clenched his fists. Then we show him something he can't ignore. He ran to the weapons console and targeted one of the Vorn ships. But instead of firing, he broadcasted a live signal showing both humans and Vorn standing side by side inside the ship. "This is Ryan of the Terran forces," he said into the comms. "We are not your slaves or your enemies. We are soldiers tired of dying for pride. If you destroy us now, you destroy the only chance for peace." The message spread across channels. Both fleets paused. The humans waited. The Vorn ship stopped moving. For a long moment there was only silence. Then one of the Vorn ships powered down its weapons. Another followed. Soon, half the fleet lowered their shields. Alara closed her eyes in relief. They are listening, but her father's flagship stayed armed. "He will not stop," she said quietly. "He believes mercy is weakness." Ryan looked at her. "Then we make him see that it's strength." The flagship charged its main cannon. Alara's ship shook as it locked onto them. Ryan stood firm beside her. "No matter what happens," he said, "they'll remember this moment." The light from the cannon filled the view, and the sky seemed to burn again. Both human and Vorn fleets watched as two small figures stood together against the storm, refusing to bow to fear. The sky above the neutral zone burned with the light of fleets from both sides. Human ships hovered in formation, while Vorn warships glimmered like silver predators in space. Between them, Alara's small transport ship moved steadily, carrying the young human warrior Ryan and their combined hope for peace. Inside, tension hung thick like smoke. Every alarm beep, every blinking light reminded them that one wrong move could start a war that no one could stop. Ryan stood at the control console beside Alara. He was exhausted from the flight, but he refused to sit. His hands tightened on the edge of the console as he watched both fleets array themselves like armies about to strike. "If they fire now, it's over," he said quietly. "Nothing will survive." Alara's eyes scanned the holographic display, showing every ship in position. "We have no choice," she said firmly. "If we wait for them to act, thousands will die. We must take the first step." She turned to Ryan. "Are you ready to stand with me?" Ryan swallowed hard. "I've never faced fleets like this, but I won't run. Not now." The transport moved forward, weaving through the debris of old satellites and destroyed ships from previous battles. The hum of the engines was steady, a calm amidst chaos. On the view screen, the two fleets faced each other, waiting, calculating. Alara opened the communication channel. Her voice was steady but carried the weight of command. "This is Princess Alara of the Vorn Dominion," she said. "I call for a ceasefire. I come with a human warrior who saved my life. We ask for peace. Stand down and hear us." For a moment, silence stretched across the void. Then the voice of the Vorn High Emperor boomed over the channels. "You dare speak to me in defiance? Surrender or face destruction, daughter." Alara's hands tightened on the controls. "I will not surrender to fear. Listen to reason, father. Humanity has honor. They have saved me. If you fire now, all of our people will die for nothing." Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let me speak to the humans," he said. "They need to understand the Vorn who want peace are real." Alara nodded and opened the channel to the human fleet. Commander Hale's image appeared, stern and wary. "Explain yourself, human," he said. "Why are you in a Vorn ship?" "I am Ryan," he said clearly. "I fought on Virel. I saved Princess Alara when her palace collapsed. She protected me. She wants peace. Not all Vorn are your enemies. Some want the war to end." Hale narrowed his eyes. "You expect me to believe that?" "I don't expect belief," Ryan replied. "I ask for trust. If we all fire now, nothing will survive. Stand down and we can talk. We can save lives," the human fleet murmured through the comms. Soldiers whispered to one another, unsure if they could trust the word of one human in the middle of enemy territory. The Vorn fleet shifted as well, some ships lowering shields, unsure whether to obey the command of a daughter in defiance of the Emperor. The silence stretched on. Then a single Vorn cruiser fired a warning shot, skimming the space near the transport. Alarms screamed. Ryan instinctively grabbed a weapon console. "They don't believe us yet," he muttered. Alara's voice was calm. "Then we show them we mean no harm." She moved the transport close to the cruiser. "I will go aboard," she said. "I will face my father directly." Ryan hesitated. "You will be in danger." "I have been in danger before," she said. "And you have risked everything to protect me." "Now it is my turn to act," Ryan nodded. "Then I stand with you." The transport ship moved toward the Emperor's flagship. Blue lights flashed across its hull as it scanned the approaching ship. Inside, Rian and Alara prepared for what could be the final negotiation. Guards were stationed behind them, weapons ready, but neither moved. When they docked, the doors opened into a massive hall filled with light and steel. At the far end stood the High Emperor, tall and imposing, his silver armor reflecting the brightness of the chamber. His eyes were like frozen storms as he regarded his daughter. "Alara," he said, voice sharp as a blade, "you defy me again, and this human?" "He saved my life," she said firmly. "By law, I claimed him. He is under my protection." The Emperor's gaze swept over Ryan. "You are a human soldier. What reason do I have to believe your word?" Ryan stepped forward, raising his hands to show he carried no weapons. "I am here to prove that humans can fight with honor and respect life. Your daughter's life was in danger and I acted. We are not enemies if we choose not to be. We can end this war before it spreads to more worlds." The Emperor's expression did not change. "Your words are weak." "Mercy is weakness. You cannot sway me." Alara stepped closer to him. "Mercy is strength," she said. "Strength comes from knowing when to stop. You have taught me that strength is power, but power without wisdom destroys everything." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "And what makes you believe wisdom is better than obedience?" "Because I have seen what humanity can do," Alara replied. "Ryan risked his life for me, an enemy. He acted out of courage and honor. If you destroy him now, you destroy that courage. You destroy hope. If you refuse, you doom all of us." Ryan's heart pounded. He had never spoken to a Vorn Emperor before, yet he felt that his words, combined with Alara's, were holding back a storm. He could see hesitation in the guards around the Emperor. Even they were unsure what to do. The High Emperor paused. His face remained stern, but the tension in the hall was evident. "Your loyalty to him is troubling," he said to Alara. "You defy the Empire for one human?" "Yes," she said calmly. "One human can change everything. One act of courage can remind us of what honor truly is. Look at him. He stands not to conquer, not to kill, but to show that humans are capable of greatness. If we destroy him, we destroy our own potential for greatness." The Emperor turned his gaze fully to Ryan. "And you, human, you would risk everything for an alien princess?" Ryan stood straight. "Yes, I did not do it for her title or her crown. I did it because it was the right thing to do. I risked my life to protect life itself. That is what humans do. We fight for what is right even when it is dangerous." For the first time, the Emperor's silence was complete. He looked around the hall, his fleet watching, his daughter before him and a human soldier standing unshaken. The weight of generations of war pressed against him. The hall was quiet except for the faint hum of energy running through the building. Finally he spoke. "Very well. I will not destroy you. But understand this, daughter, defiance has consequences. You will answer for your choices," Alara nodded. "I understand. But I will answer for the lives we save, not the lives we take." Ryan breathed slowly. He felt the tension in his chest loosen slightly. They had survived the confrontation. They had stood together, human and Vorn, and shown that courage and honor could be stronger than fear and hatred. Outside, the fleet slowly lowered their weapons. The humans and the loyal Vorn ships held their fire. For a brief moment, the endless war paused, and both sides saw that peace, though fragile, was possible. The Emperor turned and left the hall without another word. Alara faced Rian and smiled. "You have changed something today. You showed everyone that courage matters." Ryan shook his head. "I only stood beside you. It was your choice to face him." "No," Alara said. "It was both our choices. Together we reminded them that the future does not have to be shaped by fear." Ryan looked out the window at the dark stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the fleets were ready to fight again, but for now there was hope. They had stopped one moment of war, and in that pause they had created a chance for something better. Alara reached over and rested a hand on Ryan's shoulder. "Come, we have work to do. If this pause is to last, we must act quickly. The High Council may challenge me again." Rian nodded. He knew the fight was far from over, but he also knew that humanity's spirit had made a mark on an alien empire. He felt pride not in weapons or victories, but in courage and trust, and he knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. Together, human and princess stood ready to take the first steps toward a new future, one built on honor, courage, and the belief that even in a universe torn by war, humans could inspire change. The fleets in the neutral zone remained in tense formation, but for the first time in weeks, no weapons fired. Human ships hovered quietly, scanning the remaining Vorn vessels. The loyal Vorn cruisers, those who had followed Alara and her small team, moved alongside them. The war had paused, fragile and delicate, but it was a start. Inside the transport, Rian and Princess Alara planned their next steps. Alara sat at the control panel, reviewing communications from her father and the High Council. Her expression was serious but calmer than before. Ryan stood beside her, looking at the stars and thinking about how far they had come. "Do you really think this will work?" he asked quietly. "It has to," Alara said. "The Emperor may never admit it, but the loyalty of my fleet shows that even among the Vorn, some are ready to listen. We have a chance to show both sides that peace is possible." Ryan nodded. "Your people will need proof. They've been fighting humans for centuries, and they will get it," Alara said. "Not with words alone, but with action. We must show that humans are not only brave but honorable, that they are capable of trust." The transport moved closer to the neutral station, a large installation that served as a meeting place for fleets from different worlds. Alara contacted the station commander and requested a formal council with representatives from both sides. The humans were wary, but Ryan stepped forward and spoke on behalf of his fleet. "I am Ryan, a soldier of the Terran forces. I stand here not as a conqueror, but as someone who believes in honor and courage. You see before you a Vorn princess who wishes for peace. We ask you to hear her. Judge not by what your eyes tell you about enemies, but by the actions we have taken together." The council chamber was vast, filled with delegates from both sides. Vorn elders, human commanders, and neutral observers watched carefully. Alara walked forward, her silver armor gleaming under the light of the chamber. She looked at the assembly and spoke firmly. "My people have caused harm to yours for many years. We have believed in strength above all. But I have seen that courage and honor are greater than fear. This human, Ryan, saved my life. By ancient law, he belongs to me. Yet he risked everything not for reward, but because it was the right thing to do. If we cannot trust humans, how can we claim to honor our own law?" Murmurs spread through the room. Some Vorn delegates were shocked that their princess would speak so boldly. The humans were uncertain, unsure if the words were sincere or a trick. Ryan stepped forward, speaking with steady conviction. "I am no hero," he said. "I am a soldier. But humanity fights not just for conquest or survival. We fight because we believe in life, in honor, in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. If the Vorn Empire and the Terran forces are willing to listen, we can find a path to peace. We can end this war and prevent countless deaths." The council was silent again. The words hung in the air. Finally, one elder Vorn spoke. "If this human speaks truthfully, and if the princess stands by him, perhaps it is time to consider another way. Too many worlds have burned and too many lives have been lost." Ryan looked at Alara. She nodded, a small smile of relief on her face. The first cracks in centuries of war were appearing. For days, the transport ship and the fleets remained near the neutral station. Ryan worked with Alara to negotiate terms of a ceasefire. They arranged for human and Vorn representatives to meet, exchange information, and discuss borders, trade, and mutual protection. Slowly, trust began to grow, though tension never fully left. One evening, Ryan walked along the deck of the transport ship, watching the stars. The battlefields of Viral were still burning in his memory, but now he saw a future that might be different. Alara joined him, her presence calm and steady. "You have done more than you realize," she said. "The Vorn respect courage, but they also respect choice. You gave them a reason to choose differently." Ryan looked at her. "I only stood beside you. You could have faced the Emperor alone. I could have, but I needed someone who understands your people. You remind me that not all decisions are about power. Some are about trust." They stood in silence, looking out at the fleets below. For the first time, human and Vorn ships floated near one another without weapons aimed. It was a fragile peace, but it existed. As the days passed, word of their actions spread across both empires. Stories circulated of the young human warrior who had saved a princess, and the princess who risked everything to protect him. Ryan became a symbol of humanity's courage, and Alara became a symbol of change within the Vorn Empire. Finally, a council meeting was held with both empires. Alara spoke first, explaining her actions, the law she followed, and the importance of courage and honor. Ryan added his voice, recounting the battles, the sacrifices, and the small choices that had kept both sides from endless death. The Emperor did not appear, but his advisors listened carefully. They could see the sincerity of the two who had stood against tradition and fear. Slowly, agreements were reached. Borders were stabilized, prisoners were released, and trade and communication between human and Vorn colonies began. Rian was offered a place among the Vorn Council as a human representative, but he refused. "I am a soldier, not a politician. My place is with my people, but I will continue to fight for peace where I can." Alara respected his choice. "You have done more than any law could require," she said, "and you have reminded my people that strength is not just power, but courage and honor." Months passed, and both humans and Vorn adjusted to the new reality. The Vorn Empire began to change from within, led by voices like Alara's willing to question old ways. Human colonies expanded with cooperation instead of war, building trade stations and peaceful settlements. Rian returned to the front lines of exploration, not as a conqueror, but as a symbol of hope. Wherever humans and Vorn met, his story was told. The young human warrior who had faced impossible odds and had not only survived, but inspired change. Alara continued her work as a leader within the Vorn Empire. She often wrote to Rian, sharing news of progress, challenges, and the small victories of peace. They both knew that the universe would never be completely safe from conflict, but they also knew that courage, honor, and trust could bridge worlds. One quiet evening, Rian stood on the observation deck of a human cruiser, looking at the stars. He thought of the battlefield on Virel, the ruins, and the moment he had saved Alara's life. He remembered the fear, the chaos, and the weight of responsibility. But he also remembered the trust she had placed in him and the courage he had found in himself. Alara's words echoed in his mind. "One act of courage can remind us all of what honor truly is." Rian smiled. He had seen war, but he had also seen hope. He had seen that humans could inspire change not only through strength but through choices, and in that knowledge he found a new mission. He would continue to fight, not just with weapons but with courage, honor, and the belief that humanity could light the darkest corners of the galaxy. And so, the young human warrior who had once been claimed by an alien princess became a legend, remembered across worlds not for battle alone, but for reminding all species that even in the midst of war, humans could stand as a force of courage, wisdom, and hope. In the end, both humans and Vorn learned something vital: that courage and honor can change the course of empires, and that a single life acting with bravery can shape the fate of many. Rian had become more than a soldier. He had become a bridge between worlds, a living testament to humanity's greatest strength. The story of the human who saved a princess, and the princess who protected a human, spread across star systems, inspiring generations to come. Their courage and honor proved that even amidst the vast and dangerous universe, humans could rise, not as conquerors, but as symbols of hope. And so, peace began. Not perfect, not permanent, but real. And it began with the bravery of one human, standing side by side with an alien princess daring to defy fear and tradition for the sake of life, honor, and a better future.